Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paskatyade Sitarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Brahmadacharya Asadhara Sri Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swara Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Brahmanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi Om Magyana Tivedandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishu Bhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dhruvyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action, Krishna Consciousness, text number 15. Nadate kasitit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhu agyanena vritam gyanam Tena muyanti jantava Narate kasichit papam Na chaiva sukritam vibhu Agyanena vritam gyanam Tena muyanti jantava Nadate kasichit papam Na chaiva sukritam vibhu Agyanena vritam gyanam Tena muyanti jantava Narate kasichit papam Na chaiva sukritam vibhu Agyanena vritam gyanam Tena muyanti jantava. Ladies.
Nadate kasyachit papam.
Nadate kasyachit papam. Na chaiva sukritam vibhu. Agyanena vritam gyanam. Tena muyanti jantava. Na, never. Adate accepts kasyachit anyone's papam sin na nor cha also eva certainly sukritam pious activities vibhu the Supreme Lord agyanena by ignorance avritam covered. Jnanam, knowledge. Tena, by that. Muyanti, are bewildered. Jantava, the living entities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhagavad-gita 5.15 Prabhupada. Nor is the Supreme Lord assuming anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Please repeat. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Prabhupada's purport. The Sanskrit word vibhu means the Supreme Lord was full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is, by his superior nature, full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. For the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with a circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desires as he deserves. The Lord proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can obtain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, Esha u yeva sadhu karma karayati tam yam ebhyo lokebhya o ni nishate. Esha u eva sadhu karma karati yam ado ni nishate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. Kaushik-taki Upanishad. Ajo janto inisho yam atmana sukadukado yo Ishvara prerito gachet swargam vabram brahm evacha. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nations. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutra 2.1.34 also confirms this. Vaishamyam nirgrinye na sapekshavat tatahi darshiyati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears so. So the text again. Nadate kashitit papam na papam sakritim vivu agyanena vritam gyana tena muyati jantava. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyade Satarana. Here it explains about the free will of the soul. Of course, we understand that we're the soul. Now the question, do we need a translation or something? Do we need a translation? Resuming Pangliski? She needs translation. Slavinsky? Okay. In this particular chapter, Krishna is explaining specifically about how the living entity is entangled because of his desires, and how Krishna is not responsible for what we're desiring. At the end of the chapter, Krishna will say, Bhaktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shanti richati. That the sages, knowing me as the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, the ultimate benefactor, the Supreme, actually, how does it start? The enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the ultimate well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. In other words, this chapter deals with our obtaining peace. And we can have peace, according to this chapter, as long as we're in the modes of material nature. In other words, as long as we misidentify ourselves with either the gross or the subtle body, there can't be any peace. Or as Krishna said in the second chapter, without peace, where is there any question of happiness? Nashta buddhya yuktasya, natya yuktasya bhavanaha, nacha bhavyatak shantir, ashantasya kutak sukham. For one who's not in transcendental consciousness can have neither controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? In other words, everyone is looking for only three things: how to become as happy as possible for as long as possible. And if we can solve those three things, how to become as happy as possible for as long as possible, then our life is successful. And if we only become happy temporarily, and it's not ultimate happiness, then we're wasting our time. Because we're not completely wasting our time. We're 99% wasting our time. Therefore, Bhagavad-gita will explain specifically here that what our circumstances are, although Krishna is arranging it inconceivably because of its inconceivable energies, still we're the ones who are responsible for what we're experiencing. Krishna is completely neutral. But at the same time, Krishna is the actual controller of everything. Krishna is the actual enjoyer of everything. And Krishna is the ultimate friend of everyone. Now, our problem is we think we're the controller, independently of Krishna. Of course, we do have some control because we have the capacity to desire. It's like you have a big machine, and if you touch a button, the machine works and it produces a car. If you don't touch the button, the machine doesn't produce anything. So we just desire, and then the machine, called the material nature, produces something, because we desire, just by our desire. Krishna arranges our desires to be fulfilled through his material energy. Originally we desire Krishna, and there's no need of the material energy. But now, because we're desiring in terms of the material energy, and the material energy has an influence on us, and here it says, instead of saying it makes us crazy, it bewilders us, which is a polite way of saying it makes us crazy. So everyone is bewildered, or if you want to use a less polite way, everyone is crazy. Because we're imagining ourselves to be doing something that we're actually not doing. Namely, everything we're doing in the material world is carried out by the material nature, or it's being carried out by the spiritual nature. If we desire in terms of Krishna, and we're meditating upon Krishna, and we're experiencing Krishna consciousness, then our activities, they become spiritualized. Because our consciousness becomes spiritual, and therefore our activities become spiritual, and then we can actually see how everything is spiritual. And when we're not in Krishna consciousness, then either we're seeing things in the mode of ignorance, or in the mode of passion. Mode of ignorance means we think that I'm doing everything, and that the whole idea is just to eat and sleep and mate and defend. And in the mode of passion, we still think we're doing everything because the material nature is covered. The predominant mode in the material energy is ignorance, bewilderment. But in passion, when we add a little passion to it, then we want to improve the material situation. We want to eat, but we want to eat nicer things. We want to sleep, but we want to sleep in a comfortable place. We want to make arrangements so that our eating, sleeping, mating, defending becomes more sophisticated. Working hard in order to improve things. Unfortunately, in the mode of passion, we actually don't improve things. We make them worse until we fall in the mode of ignorance, and then we stop trying to improve things. And then we're just satisfied with just eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and we don't have the energy to so-called try to improve things. Prabhupada said yes, that in India, that they pass stool in the field. And here we have a very elaborate arrangement so we can pass stool. We have bathrooms with carpets on it, and music playing, and incense. And but after all, we're doing the same thing, whether on the field or in the bathroom. But we just think it's an improvement. But we got to work hard for that. Matter of fact, we have to steal and cheat and whatever else, get money for it. So in our modern society, we can pass stool in a nice, comfortable bathroom rather than out on the field. So this is called illusion. And in mode of goodness, we realize that actually, no matter, the best thing is not to struggle hard in the material nature in order to try to improve what's already there, because it's already perfectly aligned. We don't have to improve, for instance, actually in the mode of goodness, what we really realize is that we should stop doing sinful activities, because that's where our real problems go. Especially killing cows and killing animals, and what to speak of nowadays, killing children, killing old people, killing each other. This makes things a lot worse. that if we simply accept that our real necessity of life is just to have a place which is sufficiently warm in the summer, in the winter, and sufficiently cool in the summer, just a place to live, and some good food, fresh air, clean water, nice relationships, then we'll actually be satisfied in our material existence. And that's the best you can do. What more can you have is better nice relationships with people, and clean air, fresh water, fresh food, and knowledge of the fact that we're eternal. Because without knowing we're eternal, we'll always be in anxiety. If we think we're this body, then actually that's the result of our sinful activities. And that's why we suffer, because we actually imagine that we're going to die. But actually we can't die, because we're eternal. Even if we want to die, we can't. But the body, we can't stop it from changing, but that's all right, because the body is already dead, and something that's dead can't die. So the body can't die either, because it's already dead. Just like during the pandemic, they were saying the amazing thing about the viruses is that they're dead. And although they're dead, when they enter into the cell, they become alive. So that's quite amazing. Viruses are actually zombies. They're dead, but somehow or another, in contact with our cell, they suddenly become alive. So that's great. I mean, that's completely madness. Do you know anything that was dead that suddenly becomes alive? Except for, what was his name again? No, Dracula. Frankenstein, that's right, Frankenstein. He's the only one in history who was dead that became alive. So that's science fiction, actually. So actually the body, we don't have to worry about dying because it's already dead. And we don't have to worry about ourselves dying because we can't die, even if we want to. But that, due to ignorance, what our main problem is that instead of experiencing bliss and love for Krishna, because we're meditating on this body, we're always experiencing fear that my body might die. Which makes absolutely no sense, but then again, the material world doesn't make any sense either. Therefore, here it explains that Krishna is a friend, which is an important thing. In the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a question in the first chapter. Why is it that Krishna, he came in the form of a boar and he killed Hiranyaksha, just because the demigods asked him to come and kill him? In other words, they thought Krishna was like a hitman for the mafia. The demigods hired him to kill poor Hiranyaksha. He came and kicked him in the head when he wasn't looking. So we thought Krishna was neutral. But somehow or another, the demigods gave him some candy, and just like a little child, he became influenced by them and then killed their enemy, Hiranyaksha. Although Hiranyaksha never really started a fight with Lord Varaha. It just so happened Lord Varaha was walking by, and they got into a fight. But Hiranyaksha, he was just trying to steal the gold from the earth, that's all. He didn't want to get into a fight with a boar in the middle of the universe. So why did he do that? Well, the fact is that Krishna is equal to everyone. That's what the whole chapter explains. That the demigods prayed that Krishna would come and save them. And the demons, they don't pray that Krishna comes and saves them. They pray that they want to kill Krishna. They want to kill the demigods, they want to kill Krishna. So Krishna comes and gives them an opportunity to kill him. And as we probably know, they never kill him. They're always banished by Krishna. But that's because of people's desires, as explained here. Whatever we're desiring, Krishna will make the arrangements. Now we may imagine that, of course, we're devotees, and therefore all the best arrangements will be made for us all the time, and then we're surprised. How is that I'm a devotee? I've even changed my dress sometimes. Sometimes I put on a dhoti, and I change my dress. Sometimes I live in the temple, and yet everything is not perfect. Everything is perfect, but our desires are imperfect. And because our desires are imperfect, even though Krishna is perfectly arranging everything, because of our bewilderment, because of our desires, because as soon as we desire something which is not Krishna conscious, the material energy immediately puts us into a bewilderment. And we start thinking something's happening other than Krishna. Or that something's happening outside of Krishna's arrangement, and therefore there's something bad going on. As a matter of fact, when we're suffering, we can't understand, how can I suffer because I'm a good person? There must be a God who's bad. Otherwise, there's no other explanation. But actually, Krishna is good, that what's bad for any living entity is that we turn our face away from Krishna. The living entity is never really bad because all his desires may be wrong, because he's bewildered by ignorance. As it says here, desire is a form of conditioning for the living entity. In other words, when we accept illusion instead of reality, namely when we accept our identification with this body, and then we have some objective in life to satisfy the senses and the mind, then we're put into illusion, and that's bad. Now, how bad the illusion is, that depends upon your perspective. Just like in the mode of goodness, we think we're good. And in the mode of passion, we think we're struggling. In the mode of ignorance, we couldn't care less. We just want something to eat. Now, they're all bad. In other words, from the point of view of Krishna consciousness, everything in the material world is wrong. Because we're wasting our time here. Instead of enjoying eternal bliss and love in relation to Krishna, the supreme source, we're identified even with a demigod body, or a human body, or a worm body. We're identifying with some body which can't give us any love, can't give us any bliss, can't give us any real relationship. And therefore that's bad, because we're dead, we're sleeping. But what's good is if we hear about Krishna and we perform something in Krishna, some activity in Krishna consciousness, we come into the spiritual energy, and that's good, because then we wake up and we're happy. So being actually truly happy in Krishna consciousness is good, and everything else is bad. So people can't understand that because they think they're good. Whatever they're doing, they think is good. That's the illusion. Just like the famous story of Two Gun Pete, which I've told before. You know Two Gun Pete? You know Two Gun Pete. Two Gun Pete, this is in a famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, by Dale Carnegie. What was his name? Dale Carnegie? Yeah. Dale Carnegie. So he explains about Two Gun Pete. Two Gun Pete was a friend of Al Capone, if you know who Al Capone was. Famous gangster in Chicago in the 1930s and 20s. So Two Gun Pete was famous because he always killed his victims with two guns. So one day he was on Lover's Lane with his girlfriend, enjoying Madhurya Rasa, or some kind of perverted reflection of it. And one unfortunate policeman had he committed an aparad, actually, against Two Gun Pete. He put his flashlight, he's shown his flashlight into his car. So Two Gun Pete was very disturbed that this is a great offense, and he took his gun out and he shot the policeman. But in order to protect his reputation, he took the policeman's gun and shot him again. because otherwise his reputation of Two-Gun Pete would be destroyed. That's what he was most worried about. Unfortunately, the other policemen did not realize how he had been mistreated by this policeman by the shining of the flashlight, and therefore they pursued him to arrest him. So there was a shootout. Two-Gun Pete was in his hideout, and there were many policemen shooting at him, and he realized that this is the anti-lila of my pastimes. So he wrote a letter to his mother, and he said, "Dear Mom, actually I'm a nice person." Unfortunately, these policemen don't realize that, and therefore they're harassing me. But anyhow, such is life in the material world. He said, "But please, take care of my cat. Your son, Two-Gun Pete, with love." So Two-Gun Pete, he thought he was a nice person. He couldn't do anything wrong. He couldn't understand why people are harassing him, just because he killed a few people. That was just part of his service. People misunderstood him. So everyone thinks like that. I'm a nice person. Whatever I do is actually good. Some people realize it and some people don't. But actually everything we're doing outside of Krishna consciousness is bad. Unless it's some kind of attempt to progress through one of the yogas, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, or the best is bhakti yoga. The progression is good, but generally speaking, people, when they're progressive, they don't know what the goal is. And therefore most people don't necessarily reach the goal, although what they're doing will help them progress towards the mode of goodness, and in the mode of goodness they should understand how important it is to perform activities in Krishna consciousness, which we're trying to do. In other words, we're trying to act in the mode of goodness so we can appreciate the value of Krishna conscious activities. And as soon as we stop acting in goodness, generally we just forget what the value of Krishna conscious activities are. Just like if you fast all day on some holiday like Janmashtami, then after a while we wake up and realize, actually, my consciousness is a little bit higher than it was before. And that's good. And therefore, if we're actually enthusiastic, when we chant, everything is nicer. And especially at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, whenever we take prasadam, prasadam even tastes better. And then we realize if we are a little austere and we act in the mode, we actually get even more happiness than we would ordinarily do if we just had an ordinary day. Although there's some austerity, so-called austerity, we go through. So similarly, if we act in such a way as to come to the mode of goodness, and in the mode of goodness, we understand the value of acting, remembering Krishna specifically, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, serving Krishna, then we realize the value of that, then that's actually good. That's really good. And everything else could be good if it helps us come to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Like washing our hands before we eat. It's good, but it's better to wash our hands before we eat because Prabhupada told us to do it. And if we don't do it, then we're more or less animals. In other words, if we don't wash our hands before we eat, then we're just in ignorance. And if we wash our hands before we eat, without remembering we're doing this because Prabhupada told us to do it, or because without being in Krishna consciousness, then that's good, but it's not so good. But it's better than not washing your hands before you eat, because then there's some hope that there's some opportunity to have a purified consciousness. And then when we hear about basic philosophy, like the fact that our body is changing and we're not changing, because we're not so covered by ignorance, therefore it's easier to understand and accept. But ultimately here it says, the first thing it's trying to convince us is that whatever is happening to us is not Krishna's fault. it's our fault because we don't know what to do and what not to do. And the best thing to do is to chant Hare Krishna. Become conscious of Krishna. Hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, serve Krishna, the 9 processes of devotional service. And we can do them most easily if we're acting in the mode of goodness. And then when we act in passion and ignorance, then the taste for these things are not so good, so much. And therefore we're not so much inclined to do them. It's like if we're chanting in ignorance and passion, then we don't have any taste for it. We chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Ram. We have no taste because we're chanting in ignorance. The famous thing, going 16 rounds with the holy name. In the first round when we're chanting, I don't even have my piece here, they're over there. And the first round, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, this is our first round. You know boxing? Rounds in boxing. So we're going in the first round, ding, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Out in the first round. Second round, ding, second round. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Ram. Oh. Put up a fight, but then we got knocked out again. 16 rounds with the holy name. But if we actually chant with a little bit of goodness, try to pay attention, and for that, generally speaking, during the day, we have to be, the previous day, we had to be a little bit in goodness. If we ate too much, we couldn't go to sleep at night, then we start our rounds, and we're struggling to stay awake, or to pay attention. We got into a fight with someone the day before. Then when we chant Hare Krishna, instead of remembering Krishna's pastimes, remember our fight the day before. I can see it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I can see it in my mind's eye. I'm going to get that guy. So what we do the day before has a lot to do with how good our rounds are the next day. Because we usually remember whatever we did the last day, we remember the next day. But if we pay attention, the previous day we didn't eat too much, we didn't sleep too much, we had nice relationships, we went on padayatra, we chanted till we got tired, and so we actually fell asleep at night. And I actually did some exercise so I could actually digest my food. Then the next day when we chant, and we even if we're not perfect in the beginning, but actually we chant, and then we can start, I should pay attention. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then we can actually feel Krishna's presence. We think, wow, that's Krishna, I'm actually Krishna conscious. Hey, it's not so bad, the Krishna consciousness movement. It's actually worthwhile to participate. Because then actually I'm becoming conscious of Krishna. So that's the aim. All we do is we have to work in such a desire so that, as Krishna says, for instance, Deva Dvita Guru Pragya Pujanam Socham Arjuvam Brahmacharyam Himsam Cha Shriyam Tapa Uchate. That austerity of the body is Deva Dvita Guru Pragya. Worshipping the Devas, Krishna, Supreme Deva, the Guru, the spiritual masters, Dvita, the Brahmins, Pragya, and the learned persons. Deva Dvita Guru Pragya. Pujanam Socham Arjam. Pujanam means to worship. Socham, keep clean, taking our shower, brushing our teeth. Socham Arjavam, being simple, straightforward, not being duplicitous. Brahmacharya, don't fall in love with every lady who passes by, or think about how this man could actually support me. Brahmacharya, ahimsa, and being non-violent, being non-envious towards others, and trying to give them Krishna consciousness, which is perfect for padayatra. Because it's probably one time we spent hours trying to give people Krishna consciousness. After a while, it seems pretty good. Shariram Tapa, this is the austerity of the body. And if we can perform austerity of the body, then the next austerity follows, which is Anuvega Karam Vakyam. Anuvega Karam Vakyam. The Priyam Hitva, no. Anuvega Karam Vakyam. Anuvega Karam Vakyam. Satya Prihitam Chayat. Swadhyaya Abhyasanam Chaiva. Vangmana Tap Uchite. So Anuvega means if we don't want to have an agitated mind, then don't agitate other people's minds. Our minds become agitated because we agitate other people's minds. Anuvega Karam Vakya. Satyam. And try to live in reality. Satyam doesn't mean just to tell the truth, what we think is the truth. The real truth is that everyone is Krishna's servant. That's the real truth. Satyam Priya, and what we say should be pleasing. In the spiritual world, people don't, their talk is like singing. So we can imagine when they're singing, what their singing is like. Their walking is like dancing, so we can just imagine what their dancing is like. So Priya means we should say things that are pleasing to people. We should try to make people happy as much as possible. Or which will actually enlighten people. Satyam Priya Hitam, and which is beneficial, which means to awaken their Krishna consciousness. Hitam Chaya, Swadhyaya Abhyasanam Chaiva. And we should not concoct something to say, it should be following the Vedas. The Vedic literature should be real, based on the eternality of the soul, the relation with Paramatma, how he's guiding us towards Krishna. That's really reality. Everything else is just a different version of the illusory energy. And then what would be the result if we speak about Krishna in that way, in Krishna consciousness? Manak prasadam somyatvam, monam atman vignigraha, bhava samshridir ityetad, tamo manasam uchate. Manak prasadam. Then we'll actually feel some satisfaction. We're doing the right thing. Krishna will reciprocate with us, and we'll actually feel Krishna's presence and feel some spiritual happiness and feel our hearts actually becoming purified. Manak prasadam samya, and equanimity. Then our minds will become more balanced. We won't love someone, we won't look at someone and we love them and look at someone else, you're my enemy, I want to kill you. I mean, that's really schizophrenia. That's the definition. One person we look at, I love you, and then you look at the other, I hate you, I'm going to kill you. Can you imagine how much we're suffering doing that all the time? Seeing everyone differently? And somya, styriam atma vinigraha. Vinigraha, control of the mind. Bhava samshriti ietam. And bhava means the feeling, pure feelings. I may have gotten that wrong. 17th chapter, text number. Bhava samshriti, of the one's nature, purification. Tamo manasam uchate. So, if we work with this body properly, and we use our words properly, because words are a manifestation of intelligence, what we bring in our ears develops our intelligence, and that the output of that is how we speak. Or as Prabhupada writes when Arjuna asks in the 2nd chapter, what are the symptoms of a person who's self-realized? How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he talk? And what is his language? So Prabhupada points out that actually the most important thing of a self-realized person is how he talks. That's why we have classes. So that we can learn the philosophy, hear it, and then we can repeat it. And if we repeat it, then the result is we can utilize our minds in Krishna's service, which is our goal. Because yoga means to put the mind in Krishna, always remember him and never forget him. And in order to do that, we need these qualities. Manak prasada, we have to be satisfied. Sonyatwan, they have to have equanimity without duplicity. monam, gravity, ityetad, bhava samshuddhir. We have to be pure in our existence. We have to have pure motives, pure feelings, Krishna conscious feelings towards others. And then the mind will be in Krishna service. Or as Prabhupada said, the more, he wrote to me again, the more you work seriously to help bring Krishna's other children back to the spiritual kingdom, then the more he'll bestow all his blessings upon you. Because Krishna is never ungrateful for our efforts to serve him. So our very activity of trying to help people become conscious of Krishna through, for instance, Harinam or book distribution, this perfection of human life to do those things, or to serve the Sankirtan movement. Because it includes all this. It includes learning how to tell people, how to speak, how to utilize our minds in the service of the Deva and Guru, how to speak in people in such a way as to attract them to Krishna conscious, the sound of Hare Krishna, or this transcendental literature, or prasadam. So it's all spiritual. Whatever we're doing in that way is spiritual. And therefore our minds become spiritualized by doing that, by using our intelligence in that way. And automatically we'll develop satisfaction and pure and being without duplicity and control of the mind. And at the same time, we'll actually feel some positive feelings towards others. All living entities will come to the platform of Krishna conscious and be able to appreciate everyone as Krishna's eternal servant. So this simple padayatra, simple Harinam, is the perfection of desire. There's nothing else in the whole universe better than that. Even the demigods are taking birth in the Hare Krishna movement in order to perform padayatra, Harinam, and distribute prasadam and distribute books. So who knows, maybe the person next to you is actually Brahma, who came here to participate in the padayatra. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you for the class, but I can't understand the last sentence in the Prabhupada. It says, the Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to. I don't understand. I think he loves us.
No, it means that Krishna is the judge, as Paramatma. He loves everyone, but he's the judge. Just like the judge may love everyone. But apparently, he's awarding one person a huge amount of money, so it appears that he likes the person. And the other one he's condemning to death. So it appears that he doesn't like the person. But as Paramatma, he has to do his duty here and reward someone and condemn someone else. But he loves everyone. Because he knows, even if he's condemning someone, that the punishment is supposed to help the person rectify himself. So everything Krishna does is good, but it appears to some people to be good or bad. Anything else? Pwala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Friend